Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. It's Mitchell Renz here. And before we get into the latest trade rumors around the Raiders star running back Josh Jacobs, today's show was sponsored by Hexclad. You can get 10% off by going to hexclad.com/chat. Just make sure that you use promo code chat. If somebody's really trying to get inspired and learn how to cook or really elevate their cooking game, I recommend using a Hexclad. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, we got the latest Jacobs news and rumors. We're going to look at some stuff from Tom Pelissero. We're going to look at some stuff from Jeremy Fowler. And I also am going to throw in a very interesting quote from me around this entire situation. Then, if the Raiders do decide to move on from Jacobs, you got to look at some potential replacements. I have re-ranked my new top 8 order, and then I got 3 blockbuster Jacobs trade ideas to make sure you never miss anything going on around the Raiders. It's literally the middle of July right now. We're putting out videos every single day. Why? Raider Nation's built different, and I get that. I'm also a big believer that nobody's going to outwork me, and I know that nobody is going to put in more effort than the Nation. So if you believe in that, and if you really believe in your heart of hearts that the Nation is different, hit that subscribe button because we got you covered here. So let's look at some important information around Jacobs here. The deadline for franchise players to sign multi-year contracts is Monday, July 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. After this deadline passes, players with franchise tags are prohibited from signing long-term deals until the end of the regular season. So the reason why that July 17th at 4 p.m. deadline is so important is because, as this lays out here, if the Raiders don't give Jacobs that long-term deal, he can't sign that long-term deal. So then his options are playing on the franchise tag or he's going to hold out. So we will be breaking down even more the closer and closer that date gets. With Jacobs, he has tweeted out bad business. He has thrown out cryptic messages left and right that he is not happy with this current situation that is being unraveled here, considering the fact that he's coming off a season where he led the NFL with 1,653 yards, where he led the NFL in first downs, where he led the NFL in total yards with over 2,000, and was a big reason why the Raiders were able to move the football last season. So I know that Josh wants a contract extension. There's no doubt about it. And I've said this 100 times on the show. He deserves a contract extension. This is his one chance for a running back to get the big-time payday. The biggest problem is right now he's playing in the NFL, where if he would have played 20, 30 years ago, he would have got the deal. But the NFL does not value the running back position, and then you put on top of that his new head coach, his new general manager, this regime. They have never paid running backs a lot of money. So Jacobs wants the contract extension. The Raiders, they want Jacobs to play on the franchise tag. And if you think that the idea of the Raiders trading away Jacobs is ludicrous, I'd say you need to pay the hell attention. I mean, look at this right here from Tom Pelissero on Jacobs. At this point, if there's not a long-term deal, I don't anticipate Jacobs being there at the start of training camp, which is July 25th. And this is the part that really scares me. And I don't know that he shows up week 1. I can promise all of y'all right now, if Josh is threatening to not be on the field by week 1 of the regular season, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, they're not going to do it. They're not going to handle it. If you're trying to build a franchise, if you're trying to build a team where everybody says, you know what, we're playing for the name on the front, we're not playing for the name on the back, and one of your star players is doing that, they're not going to do it. They will move on from Josh Jacobs. That I can promise you. This is what Jeremy Fowler had to say on Jacobs. The Raiders have 2 weeks to try to figure this out and negotiate in earnest. But if they don't get a deal, Jacobs could wait a little bit. He has not signed his franchise tag. He could hold out really until late August, early September if he wants, maybe even missing games. So we'll see what he chooses to do there, but that's his leverage. When you get guys like Jeremy Fowler and you get a guy like Tom Pelissero both throwing out the idea that he could miss games, I mean, some light bulbs got to start going off in your head and thinking like, oh man, this could actually go sour if both sides don't agree. Like, if Jacobs is already showing you how verbally he upset he is, and he's sitting there going, well, wait a minute, you guys gave out $344 million last offseason to Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller. It's actually probably even more than that. why can't I get something here, right? I just led this team. I was the biggest reason why we were able to move the football last season. So Jacobs has every right to be upset. But then McDaniels is going to be like, I don't really care. We do things our way, and if you don't like it, you can go kick rocks. So my question to every single person watching right now, whether you watch this live or whether you watch this on a later date, if Jacobs doesn't get a long-term deal, will he hold out? If you're sitting here watching the show and you're like, all right, it's July 17th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, no deal ends up going down. He either plays on the franchise tag, gets traded, or holds out. You think he ends up holding out? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So while you're going to hit with that YouTube ad break, I want you to scroll on down and get your votes in. If he threatens to hold out into the regular season, there's a chance the Raiders trade him. And if they don't get that long-term extension deal done by July 17th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, I still believe that he ends up signing the franchise tag, because what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to look at the market. And he's going to have to see, oh, wow, Leonard Fournette still available. Oh, wow, Dalvin Cook still available. Oh, shit, Ezekiel Elliott, he's still out there. There are other talented free agent running backs still on the market that if you're McDaniels and Zig, you're like, well, I got Zamir White. We have Amir Abdullah, who's a third down back. So I could just roll with Zamir White, and I can probably sign a Dalvin Cook for half the price that you want to play for right now. They are showing you they don't really value the running back position. And then this is my take right here on the entire Jacobs situation as it stands, okay? Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler believe in their system over a player's talent. That is something that they have shown time and time again. If Josh Jacobs isn't willing to buy in to what the Raiders are doing, after Jacobs said this offseason he would be willing to play on the franchise tag, then a Josh Jacobs trade is 100% possible. And sure, Jacobs said, if you want me to act like a hero, or if you don't want me to act like a villain, the hero, that whole quote, I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But he said that he would be willing to play on the franchise tag. He also said that he would want the team to build around him. And you can say that the Raiders did. You can say that the Raiders didn't. That's totally up for your debate. But if I'm McDaniel, I'm Ziegler, I'm saying, hey, you said you'd be willing to play on the franchise tag. We gave you the franchise tag. It's time for you to man up and sign it. And if I'm Jacobs, I'm saying I had over 2,000 yards last season. I deserve to be paid a lot more. It's not that I don't want to be a part of this team, but you're undervaluing me. It's going to be an interesting situation that we're definitely going to have to keep our mind on. I also know my mom used to always say, if you can't take the heat, then get the heck out of the kitchen. But you know what? I would love to cook a little bit more if I had some Hexclad, and you probably would too. Use promo code chat at hexclad.com/chat, and a huge shout out to them for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Hexclad has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of non-stick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty, just in case you find a way to destroy them. Use promo code chat at hexclad.com/chat for 10% off, and don't worry, that link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are meta utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. And if, guess what, you don't take my word for it, Gordon Ramsay, he might know a thing or two about cooking. The sear I can get with these pans is incredible with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home. And for me, I love to cook, and it's something that I have really tried to do a lot more. You know what I hate doing, though, when it comes to cooking? I hate cleaning up, Chugs. It drives me nuts. And the fact that I can put this pan in my dishwasher, that's the easiest decision I can make, because I know this. If I look into my cupboard and I have 3 pans in there, 2 of them I can't put in the dishwasher. One that I can, I'm going to use the one that I can put in the dishwasher every single time. So they're not only amazing pans, but they're also pretty dang sexy as well. Score points at home with your friends, your loved ones. It's time to stop ordering delivery food and start cooking like a big boy with Hexclad. Real cuisine isn't made in the microwave. It's cooked in a Hexclad. For a limited time, get 10% off with our special link. Hexclad.com/chat. That's 10% off at HEXCLAD.com/chat with code chat. For all of you that are interested in elevating your cooking game, I recommend getting your hands on these pans. Also, the wok is really good as well. They have all different kinds of products, so if you're looking for a bunch of different things to cook with, Hexclad absolutely has you covered. So we're going to continue to get into this now, Jacobs trade rumors. So now we're going to transition into some Josh Jacobs trade ideas, because that's what I like to do on this show. If I'm going to sit up here and talk about us moving on from our number one running back, I got to sit up here and give you guys at least some of an idea of who's the team that could potentially make the move and what does it look like exactly. So I have 3 totally different trade ideas, and I'm going to ask you with every single one of them to give me your opinion on what you're thinking. So trade idea number 1 here. The Los Angeles Rams, they trade for running back Josh Jacobs, because let's face it, Jacobs is an upgrade over Cam Akers, and the Raiders get a first-round pick in 2024. Los Angeles, Sean McVay has proven that they do not give a crap about first-round picks, and if I'm looking at the Rams, a team that won the Super Bowl in 2021, they were a joke last season, but that was due to injuries. So if you're Matthew Stafford, you're Cooper Kupp, you're saying, well, wait a minute here. We still have a chance to win a Super Bowl, and could that mean by going out and getting a great running back in Jacobs? Hey, if you're the Rams, you got to at least think about it. So who wins this trade right here? If you think it's the Las Vegas Raiders, I want you to type LV. If you believe that it's the Rams, then I want you to type LAR. And I see some people in the chat saying that I burn my food. I am actually a very good cook. I might have to prove it to you once or twice here on the show, and if I had Hexclad, I would even elevate it a little bit more. Let's go to the next trade idea coming up here on the show. This one's a little bit weird, but I was like, what's a team that would be interested in making a move for Jacobs? And I do think that the Washington Commanders are a team to keep in mind. And the reason why Chase Young's being thrown in this is because he has been a player that the Commanders are more than willing to move on from. Do the Raiders have Tyree Wilson, Chandler Jones, and Max Crosby? They sure do. However, though, Chandler Jones, I do think this is going to be the final year that he plays with the Raiders. Tyree Wilson, if they like the idea of using 3 premier edge rushers, and if Chase Young can stay healthy, that's a guy that can play defensive end and defensive tackle. You can use him in a little bit of a rotation, and it helps build your offense, and it helps get after the quarterback. So, what do you think? Who wins this trade here? A lot of injury concerns around Chase Young. There's no doubt about it. And I know that people on social media are going to freak out because there's going to be screenshots of these. Again, I don't want to trade Jacobs, but it is my job to give you an idea of what it could potentially cost if a deal ends up going down, and it also helps me to figure out what you guys have to think about certain things. So the Commanders, they get Jacobs. The Raiders, they get Chase Young at defensive end. The final trade here, it revolves around the Buffalo Bills. So the Las Vegas Raiders and the Bills. And the reason why that I'm going to go with this next one here, it's because Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, they love connections. Do they not? And anytime that you see a player with an old team or an old connection, I do think that that is something to at least consider. So in this trade that you're about to see here on the Raiders Report, sponsored by Hexclad, it involves the Buffalo Bills trading for Jacobs, because I do still think that they are a big-time running back away from really changing that offense. And yes, they have James Cook, but they did also bring in Damian Harris. And the last time Damian Harris and Josh McDaniels were together, Harris ran for 15 touchdowns. That year, the Patriots made the playoffs. Mac Jones, that team, they won 10 games, they lost 7. So in this scenario, Damian Harris for Jacobs, and then the Raiders also get a second-round pick. This deal might not be a great deal for some people out there because they're like, I don't want to give up Jacobs. This is my favorite one because you get a good running back and you get a second-round pick in 2024. So what do you think? Who wins this trade right here? Do you think it's the Raiders or do you think it's the Buffalo Bills? I get that you're not going to find a replacement for Jacobs. That's how it is. Because when you're as talented as he is, it is what it is. But if there's a team out there willing to overpay, then I do think you have to at least consider it. So coming up next here is replacements. Because if the Raiders do trade away Jacobs, you have to look at the idea of, all right, well, if you're going to move on from Josh, who the hell are you going to put in at running back to really be able to be that main guy that takes over? So the replacements that I have here rank from 1 to 8. Coming in at number 1. This is the guy that the Raiders would rely on the most to replace Jacobs. It's Zamir White. That's why they drafted him in the 4th round at 122 overall in the 2022 NFL Draft. And then some other potential replacements in free agency. You got Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, I think, are the top two guys that they would look at in free agency. Damian Harris, as we just talked about with Buffalo. Zeke, and then, you're going to have some sort of mix-in of Sincere McCormick, Britton Brown, and Brandon Bolden. The reason why I'm bringing up Dalvin Cook is because, yes, the Minnesota Vikings released him. He's had solid production over the last 4 years. It's the connection with Kennedy Polamalu, the Raiders' current running back coach, who was also previously with the Minnesota Vikings before coming over to Las Vegas. For Leonard Fournette, the reason why his connection is here is because Leonard Fournette, one of his good buddies is Tom Brady. And if Tom Brady's not out doing whatever with Kim Kardashian, I don't know, maybe he's sitting over there talking to Mark Davis a little bit and saying, hey, why don't you go get this guy? He's a good running back. He can catch the football. He can run between the tackles. He was a really good fit in my offense, and if he can fit well with Tom Brady, chances are he's going to be able to fit well with Josh McDaniels. In terms of Damian Harris, you look at that 2021 season where he had over 200 carries. He had 15 touchdowns. He had a career year in the Josh McDaniels system. And if you're McDaniels, you're like, well, this is all the more reason why I don't need a Josh Jacobs. I can find a running back to fit in my system. And then if you want to go with another option here, it is Ezekiel Elliott. And Zeke, you can say what you want about him. Is he on the decline? Yes. He's been very healthy, though, throughout his entire career, and he's been a pretty reliable back at the goal line, which the Raiders do secretly need. So in terms of my Josh Jacobs replacement, here they are one more time, and if you want to take a screenshot, post it on social media. I don't mind. Instagram, Twitter. You know where to find me, at MitchellRenz365. So if we're sitting in a world where we're sitting there wondering, all right, it's no Jacobs. Who's the best Jacobs replacement on this list? And if I miss somebody, throw out another name, man. Don't be shy. Throw another name at me. The best name on this list is Zamir White. And I say that because it doesn't cost you a lot of money. Where if you go out and get a Dalvin Cook, you go out and get an Ezekiel Elliott, are they probably better than Zamir right now? Yeah, they might be. It's also going to cost you $5, $6, $7 million, and at that point, I'd rather just roll with Zamir. If you're going to go cheap and you're not going to pay Jacobs, then just roll with Zamir White or roll with the other current running backs you have on your team. Who knows? You might find a gem at Sincere McCormick, which I would love to see that end up going down. I need to know, though, who's the best Jacobs replacement on the list.